Don is supposed to be our moderator. Having microphone problems. Okay, so
That Kyle that I'm seeing, that's the other Kyle, yeah.
all right, so we're getting this whole thing started. I am getting the link right
Steve, how are you?
now.
So,
Pretty good? Yeah.
I am Liam or Honk, however you know me in the group. I've got Everett here. We've got Pelé on the other side with Anthony Rivera. Also in-house, I don't know if he's going to be a participant or not, but he's at least, so he's not going to be a participant.
I'm going to be participant. I'm going to watch.
Steve Albert in the group is here as well. So we are going to get this thing going. I'm going to find my, I'm posting the link right now in our chat so you guys can spread that around to get that link out there so people can start watching. I'm trying to find my fucking post that I put in the barge. If I can drop it in there.
What's happening?
Let's see. So here, I'm dropping the link in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
That.
Oh, yeah.
Cinnamon
Toast
Toast
Crunch.
Barge.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
General
You mix
here.
horchata and fireball. Fireball with horchata, and then you put it in shot. Still tastes like cereal Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
So my town this past week, my grandpa's 80th birthday was on Wednesday. So
Posting to the barge, getting this posted all around. I always hate the first 5 or 10 minutes of these things because it's just us awkwardly posting the link everywhere before the actual action happens.
And I almost bought a bucket of those fireballs. My grandma would always do. And so we had like a whole toast to grandma.
Okay, so it looks like. How do you guys read?
So I got mine, and then my great aunt and uncle.
We hear you.
You guys hear us? Anthony, you're all good?
They gave me theirs.
Yep.
All right. So then,
we just see this. Like, here you go.
I mean, we're catching some conversation in the background. Is that?
oh yeah, they can hear those too.
Yeah.
I saw a meme that was like.
Yeah, someone just came over, so they're getting acquainted real quick. But okay, so we're getting this all set up. So I'm kind of guessing Don is not going to get his shit figured out. I'm starting to lose confidence that that's going to happen.
Yeah, doesn't look like it.
We don't need him. We don't need him. We can self-moderate. So let's see. Okay, so I guess we'll just go ahead and do it. So this is Barge Bloodsports number 4. We are going to debate free market capitalism versus third positionism. And so usually the best way, in my experience, to do these things is we just kind of, well, since it's a 2 versus 2, let's have one person from each team just do like a maybe 30-second to 90-second just kind of introduction as to what your beliefs and stuff are, and then go from there. Pelé or Anthony, which one of you guys wants to do your intro?
Okay, Anthony. I mean, I've already done this once, so if you want to go ahead and give your perspective.
All right. I think that the freer the market, the better it does for everyone, and I think there should be a kind of a wall separating finance and state.
A big, beautiful wall.
Big, yeah, with a gold T on it.
I would agree.
So yeah, that kind of summarizes my position, really.
Yeah, that
Short
about.
and sweet. I can respect it. So,
and our position is that is not possible. You cannot have a separation of the economy and the state, and that the marketplace is like a garden that the state,
a whole garden.
it's like a garden that the state tends to. It creates the garden bed. It creates the rules. It plants the seeds, provides the structure and integrity for the market to even occur. So you really can't have a separation of the state and the economy. They are intertwined. It's called political economy. And our position is we advocate a mixed economy that is more favorable towards workers than the current mixed economies of the world.
Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, what do you mean by more than what's already there around the world?
Well, every economy in the world today is a mixed economy, and that's ultimately that's our position, is that you're not going to have complete privatization nor complete nationalization of industry. It's always going to be a mixture of the two, depending on the circumstances. So, like, you guys are basically extremist capitalists that think everything should be privatized except for police and the military and courts. But every system in the world has much more public services than that. So every economy in the world is what's known as a mixed economy. It's not fully privatized. It's not fully nationalized. And that's our position. That's really
So
the only way.
what is the difference between third positionism and every other mixed economy?
It's a subtle difference, but a very important one. Third positionism basically asserts that, like, sort of how you guys on the radical capitalist side, the government should be held back by a constitution and these abstract principles that keep the government in check. We basically are advocating to tear those down a bit, to keep the government flexible so the government can assist the market in responding to different things that happen. Plus, on the other end of it too, the current system we have is a mixed economy. It is a little bit closer to what we'd want to see than what you guys advocate for, but a big difference is this current system favors the elites, while we favor a system that is more focused on the working class.
Okay. I was trying to read about third positionism, and I
It's
didn't.
somewhat esoteric. It's somewhat.
I remember the description mentioned ultranationalism.
That will be a feature, is that the economy is supposed to function for the good of the nation rather than for the good of capitalists and billionaires. So rather than the economy revolving around the owners of capital, the economy should prioritize the well-being of normal people and workers.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, so we're clear, does it entail white nationalism or
Not necessarily.
No, we're talking about economics. It's much broader, more broad than that. The economy should serve the nation, whichever type of nation that should be. So in Africa, the various African countries should have an economy that serves the people that happen to live in that country. So it is not synonymous with white nationalism. That would not be correct. That would be an unfair description.
okay? Okay, so to me, it just sounds like you're arguing from the perspective of a mixed economy.
Yeah, well, we're talking about a mixed economy that's more favorable towards the working class.
Okay.
So it's also known as third positionism.
Okay, fair enough.
Probably the most popular, well, I guess the second most popular example is national Bolshevism. It's kind of a it basically it combines elements of the left and the right. It throws out what doesn't work, accepts what does work, and it synthesizes them.
Okay.
And so we believe in the concept of market failures. So the market can fail in several regards. You guys think that the market fails to provide police, law, and court services. But we think that the market can sometimes fail in other endeavors as well. making state intervention in the economy quite reasonable.
Okay, Anthony, feel free to jump in at any time.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to just figure out where to start.
I mean,
what more programs are you advocating for than are already existing that would benefit the working class?
When we answer this, because even me and Everett have probably some disagreements on specific policy and how specifically the minutiae we probably have some slight disagreements on. So don't take what I say as the gospel. Don't take what he says as the gospel, because again, mixed economy politics can take a lot of different forms, right? So, but I think generally what we can say as an overarching thing is a tight border, some kind of universal basic income, some kind of national healthcare system. Because, I mean, basically, if you take the most common argument from conservatives against leftist economic policy proposals is that if you leave the borders open, you are going to go broke and you can't afford these things and it's going to be a shit show. So we prescribe to fill that hole with a nationalist cultural policy to limit the amount of people who are able to come in and take advantage of those programs.
The other thing that they say, which is I think a very valid point, is how will it get paid for?
Right. So like a universal basic income would cost trillions of dollars a year and would explode short-term federal budget deficits.
right.
This is true. And our answer is that the federal government has what's known as monetary sovereignty.
Yep.
They have a fiat fractional reserve system that is not based on any commodity like gold. So money is not nearly as scarce as most conservatives think that it is.
I thought it was based on petroleum.
We're going to run $1 trillion deficit by September is what the most recent news headlines say. So $1 trillion deficits are the new normal. So it happens currently and the world doesn't come to an end. They're not going to run out of fiat currency.
But eventually it will, because debt eventually racks up to where it's no longer sustainable.
Strictly from just a physics perspective, you can never go broke on your own sovereign currency, right?
No, but it would eventually become devalued to the point that it's
which is true to an extent. I will grant you that to an extent. However, for one, there are a lot of ways that a country can combat that kind of inflation. But also what I would say is if inflation was that big of a deal, like the conservatives and libertarians would say it is, the 2008 bailout thing that happened would have ended the entire world, but it didn't.
Yeah, we're running $1 trillion deficits nowadays. We do not have hyperinflation. Fears of hyperinflation are grossly exaggerated. The federal government can run budget deficits and spend willy-nilly as long as the productive capacity of the country also increases. If we continue to increase the monetary supply without increasing goods and services, then we do have a problem. When you have more money chasing the same amount of goods and services is when you have inflation. So we need to have productive capacity increasing with the monetary supply in order to avoid inflation. And that's basically what we have. And that's why we don't have runaway inflation in the current economy.
Okay, well, I agree with that premise. And I hate that I'm going to inject this into it. But when Venezuela had all their stuff backed on oil, and then the price of oil dropped, it created everything that is happening in Venezuela now. So if our economy takes a downturn, like we have a 2008 all over again, that's a domino. That's the first domino going in that
Well, I guess to start responding to that is, I mean, obviously we have a petrodollar system. The United States is very much in control of how, not in control necessarily, but they're a very large influencer on what the value of oil actually is. Our currency is, the petrodollar system. I don't think I have to go over that with everyone and the audience and everything. I think we all know generally what the petrodollar system is. But the Venezuela example, it falls flat on for a couple different reasons. But the main reason it does is because the value of oil dropping to tank Venezuela's economy. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. That was probably a move.
Yeah, you're not comparing apples to apples. We are not Venezuela. They're a commodity.
No, but
it's really not a fair comparison.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they had all these social programs that relied on the value of that dollar, and when the value of that dollar that was based off of the income that their oil was producing tanked, they no longer had the income, and it just
the social programs are not the reason they have runaway inflation in Venezuela. It's a combination of geopolitical factors.
Right.
The global superpower, the United States, has come down hard on Venezuela with sanctions, crippling their economy, crippling their productive capacity. And so that's when you start to have inflation. They have an economy that revolves around oil. The price of oil cratered. And then they also had sanctions imposed on them by the global superpower. That's what's happening in Venezuela. It is not Venezuelan social programs that are causing their problem.
And I'll add one thing to that as well, because Everett mentioned monetary sovereignty earlier, and even though the Venezuelans do technically have a monetary sovereignty, they're, as you said, Anthony, their economy relies almost entirely on their oil production, which is actually very largely controlled by the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. So that actually undermines their economic sovereignty in more ways than not. And so, yeah, it's just not a good comparison.
Okay. So I don't want to get caught up in this example of Venezuela.
I think
I hated that you brought Venezuela into it,
it's not a good example. It's not a good analogy.
It's cringe to bring Venezuela in, but
it kind of is. But
I could have done Zimbabwe.
I don't blame you for doing it.
Because Zimbabwe, they thought just print more money until they had that what was it, $1 trillion note?
I have seen memes of that. I also have seen. I don't know very much about the Zimbabwe example. I do know a couple of things though that, I don't know if they actually had a sovereign currency or not. But I also do know that. I mean, let's be honest about what the average IQ of African countries are. I think we can kind of, see that for what it is. When
the whole thing, the whole standalone like economic currency aside, I mean, we're still part of a global currency, and we still rely on imports and exports. So if the value of our dollar goes down, that means we're having to spend a ton more to import, and we're having to export at a loss.
Yeah,
things the government can do to, like I mentioned earlier, with combating inflation. I mean, one of the things the government can do is forms of spending, ironically enough. And right now we're spending exorbitant amounts of money doing all kinds of fuck games in the Middle East. And basically one of the central pillars of what we're advocating to do is the government should keep up that kind of spending, but they should bring it home to the middle class instead of doing all this shit in the Middle East. And it'll probably end up balancing out.
Shouldn't they pay off the debt before they do anything, though?
Well, the debt is it's a funny thing. It's a weird. It's difficult to explain to conservative types, and I'm not trying to strawman you or tell you what you think. It's just generally it's a rule that a country with a sovereign currency cannot go broke in said sovereign currency, right? And so the national debt in that regard is just, that's the amount of money that the federal government has printed in order to hand over to the private sector as stimulus. And so effectively what the national debt is it's actually a public asset rather than a public liability. So the national debt is good. That is the amount of money that has been created to hand to the private sector. So it's a private surplus, but it's a public debt.
Okay.
The government owes the money to itself. Me and you don't owe that money to anyone.
Right.
The federal government owes it to itself. It's a non-issue.
Okay, so just to be clear, you are saying that no matter how big the debt grows, it would never be an issue.
There are other factors like the speed at which the debt grows could cause an inflationary spiral if other factors aren't accounted for. But generally speaking, the national debt is not an issue. It's an asset to the economy.
But just one of those policies that you want would insanely increase the rate that the debt grows.
Which would be an increased asset to the economy.
Yeah, universal basic income would undoubtedly explode the deficit, making it.
And also, just real quick, just to cut you off for a second, deficit and debt, two different things.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there. Everett, continue.
The national debt is just the aggregation of all the deficits that the federal government has run throughout the years. But in the short run, a program like universal basic income would increase both deficits and the national debt. I think the national debt's right around $21 trillion now. So we would shoot upwards of $30 trillion in short order if we instituted a policy like universal basic income. And our contention is that it may sound like a big number, but it does not necessarily entail hyperinflation.
Okay.
With just that, it wouldn't. But then you increase, like, I'm assuming you're wanting an increase in the minimum wage as well, which would
when you look at global incidence of hyperinflation, you find that there are often other factors at play, such as war. Like the Weimar Republic was penalized for World War I, and that was part of the reason they ended up having runaway inflation in Germany in the 1920s. Zimbabwe, they embarked on all manner of inappropriate policies like stealing land from white farmers. Robert Mugabe was a kleptocrat. So there's all these other reasons why people have hyperinflation, and it's not purely a monetary phenomenon, as Milton Friedman would say.
Okay. So let's agree then. All right. I think I'm mostly agreeing with you guys that figuring out how to pay for universal basic income and universal healthcare and whatever else you guys want probably isn't going to be a major issue. I mean, like you guys said, the debt will explode in the short term, and the government will figure out a way to do it. Maybe cutting military spending or whatever they do. But I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I will say that if you get rid of all other forms of welfare and just universal basic income, that might actually be a cost savings.
And
Yeah.
I can't speak for Everett, but I'm personally in favor of that. Just getting rid of, because you're getting rid of bureaucracy, you're getting rid of a whole bunch of nonsense. You're getting rid of a whole.
For it. I'm conceding that point.
Yeah. But I'm agreeing with you. I'm elaborating on my agreement with you. That would be a good thing. But so I want to ask you, because this is the perfect time to actually ask you, because we're talking about welfare and UBI and all that. So with your perfectly free market Lolita Express capitalism that you're advocating for, so in the next 5 to maybe 20 years max, you're going to have 10 million Americans out of work, with automation replacing the trucking industry, which is the most common job in all 50 states among young men. And so what does free market capitalism have? Because when those 10 million people lose their jobs, the residual effects of that are going to destroy the everyday lives of a lot of people, which is going to sink our economy. And having a sovereign currency is not going to save us from that. So the free market, or whatever aspects of the free market that exist in this economy, want those jobs gone. Our economy be damned. You, me, Everett, and Pillay, and Donald, whenever the fuck he wants to chime in, be damned. So what does the free market have as a solution? Because it seems like whatever elements of the free market exist in this economy want to tank this thing in favor of saving money.
Well, not necessarily, because for every new industry that comes along, it multiplies and creates new industries. Like
I do
about 150 years ago, it was like 90% of the world's populations was farming.
Yeah,
like everyone was basically farmers, even in the United States.
I do understand that. I do understand that the Industrial Revolution, like the creation of the cotton gin, created more jobs than it killed. I understand that.
And also, I mean, it put a lot of farmers. I mean, when you think about it, it replaced all those jobs, because what used to take like 50 people, one person could now do with a machine. It didn't create this economic issue like people are, even back then, were saying it was going to. I think it's the exact same thing happening again today.
No, wait.
I think it's foolish. It's foolish to believe that is a universal principle that expands across all of space and time.
Right. If you ever go to a casino and go to their roulette wheel, they often have a board up that will tell you what's been happening on the past rolls. It'll say you got 5 blacks in a row, and before that you had 5 reds in a row. And then they'll have a little note that says past performance does not predict the future.
Right.
So in the past, we have been able to roll with technological advances, but what we're saying is that this time is different with artificial intelligence and automation and robotics. Automation, robotics, artificial intelligence are going to displace almost every job. In fact, you'll have robots building robots. So this time is different, is our position. And the studies show that wage stagnation over the last 30 years is largely to blame on 2 factors. Number 1, automation, and number 2, mass migration. And the studies say that automation is an even stronger force. So we already have people being displaced from the workforce, almost 100 million Americans out of the workforce. We have wages that have stagnated due to automation. This is a serious problem that privatization alone cannot jump that hurdle. Automation is a real problem for you guys.
Okay, so
I disagree.
I'm going to go ahead and agree, because I think artificial intelligence or whatever, it's going to be different than what we experienced with the Industrial Revolution, where the new innovation and technology created more jobs. I think it's realistic, and I've heard this from a lot of different experts that that automation will or already is displacing workers. But okay. So there's a couple things. First of all, I don't know if the market can solve that or not, or how it would solve it. I mean,
so you're a third positionist now.
No. But we never see these things in advance. We never, whenever the Industrial Revolution was happening, nobody foresaw that all these new jobs would be created until the
industries existed.
Yeah, until it started happening. So the way the market, we don't have to know how it's going to work. But
back when I was an ANCAP, right? An argument that was commonly thrown at me is, what would happen if this? What would happen if that?
Right.
And my response typically was, well, I'm not the king of capitalism. The market will figure it out. But
I'm not even saying that.
A few years later, I look back on that, and so now I'm forced to ask, well, if you're saying the market is going to be able to figure it out, what if it doesn't? It's a Pascal's wager type of situation where if you can say that there are other forces at work that will figure it out, but the costs of them not being able to figure it out are catastrophic for our civilization. So it's perfectly rational for the government to step in and try to assist with this transition.
But the changes could also be catastrophic.
The cat argue, yep, he's making amazing arguments.
Well, you're right. The policies enacted to combat automation could be catastrophic. If you institute a universal basic income improperly, it could result in hyperinflation. And that's why we're advocates of statecraft. We're not saying that there is a simple rule or algorithm that we can rely on. We're saying that the point of the state is to take a look at the circumstances, to take a look at the context, and then decide on appropriate policy from there. You don't just simply say we need to always privatize everything always. That is not statecraft. That is not how you run a society.
Okay, can I go back to? Let me go back to Liam's question really quick, because you asked what if the market doesn't fix it, right? And I think this gets at the core of our disagreement, because it's on you. I mean, it's on the individual. If you can't figure out how to make ends meet, that's your problem. I mean, wait. Well, just really quickly. Okay, so we all know this is coming, or you should know this is coming, or that this is a risk, and your job could be automated. You've got to start preparing for that now. You've got to, I guess like I always say, learn.
So Pele, what? Let me ask you a quick question here. So what is the percentage success rate of both public and or private retraining programs for people with careers? So like these 40-plus-year-old truckers, almost 10 million of them who are about to get displaced by automation. What's the success rate for private and public what would you call it? Retraining programs? Do you know what that number is?
I have no idea, but I would say most of them are probably
less than 15%.
Okay, so
you can't tell 10 million people with a less than 15% success rate to just pick themselves up by their bootstraps and learn a new skill. That's detached from reality. That's what we call retard island.
Okay,
but you're also saying that it's the responsibility of everyone else because they went into a career.
This is where the state
dying off.
has a place to step in.
Automation is a systemic problem. It is a societal issue.
Agreed.
There's going to be so many people that are displaced by automation that it results in social instability. It needs to be addressed with state policy. The state will need to intervene in the economy. And this is how the government's always operated. It's called statecraft. And you guys are basically denying that and saying that the federal government should rule by formula and say just always privatize everything. No matter what. No matter what circumstances, just privatize everything.
Yeah.
Hey, is my microphone working now?
Yes.
So what are you wanting to do for these truckers? I mean, they're going to be out of work either way. You can't force people to continue hiring them when there's cheaper alternatives.
That's where the universal basic income comes in.
Yeah, that's where
when people lose their job, they can still afford food, shelter, and medical care.
And the economy doesn't collapse because all of a sudden you have 10 million fathers who can't fucking provide for their families.
Okay, let me go ahead and concede that when the robots are doing everything, then yes, we can have universal basic income and universal.
No. We need that. We need that until the robots do everything. We can have we can have nationalist communism with robots once the robots fucking do everything. But you really have to get to the matter of the transition in getting to the point where the robots are doing everything and full-time work is just for suckers. That whole transition, the transition is why we need UBI.
Okay, so let me ask
I
you.
think I'm in. If you guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I can hear you. Yep.
I'm finally
You
in.
got a moderator.
We finally have a moderator.
Well, you guys have done good for half an hour. I'm sorry it took so long to get this fucking thing to work.
Fucking boomer.
Go ahead, continue. I just want to know if you can hear me.
Well, I just wanted to ask, when is this AI revolution supposed to happen? It's like the next 50 years?
It's already occurring.
It began 10 years ago.
Okay, when is it supposed to be a major catastrophe, I guess?
It's an ongoing catastrophe right in front of our eyes.
At least 20% of U.S. jobs are going to be replaced by machines before we die.
For the next 50 years.
That is catastrophic.
We are not talking about something far off into the future.
It began 10 years ago.
The automation revolution is currently happening.
What was the percentage?
It's either no, I was wrong. It was 35%. It was 30 to 35% of jobs right now could be replaced by automation within the next few decades. I had mixed up a few statistics and percentages. Within the next few decades, up to 35% of jobs could be automated out, and the economic consequences of that are going to be catastrophic. And there's no way around it.
Not really. Think of all the new industries that'll be created within that. We can't even imagine right now.
What new industries?
I don't know. I mean, like back in 1990, you couldn't ask me about like social media, and yet this is multi-billion-dollar thing.
Social media.
You don't know.
For one, social media kind of already existed in the late 90s. There were like
I said 1990. I mean, I'm not talking about like Yahoo chats and stuff like in 1999. Yeah, that's when it was early and people were starting to see the possibilities. I'm saying in like 1990, no one knew how the internet was going to explode and how it was going to completely change and create this entirely new multi-trillion-dollar industry based around it.
This is what I meant earlier by bringing up how unsuccessful retraining programs are, is because you say, okay, all of these industries are going to open up because of this technology shift, let's call it. Yet retraining programs are wildly unsuccessful.
Well,
so what's going to happen is all of these low skill trucking jobs are going to be closed, and all of these high skill maintenance and programming jobs are going to be open. But retraining people doesn't work.
Too old to learn it.
So this Jeffrey Epstein capitalism here. Right. Sorry, I'm wanting to shoehorn pedophile jokes in, but the whole thing is it's not equipped to deal with the modern world. This whole thing is just abstract mental masterbation.
So Kyle,
when the rubber actually meets the road, the free market is not.
Here's the problem.
Which one?
What you're saying, right? Not Pele. Everett.
Yeah.
Listen. So
here's
here's what I say. Right. So you're not wrong, but I think you're missing a part of it. So automation is going to replace jobs, right? But what are we saying? Are we saying that the market should control it, or the market can steer where we should go, or are we saying government needs to steer where it go? If we look at government's past performance, and you're the one that's saying that retraining programs are not working or inefficient, not working. Well, so if you turn it over to government, we already have examples of government not working. Can we see examples of government working? No, I don't know of any that are going to replace or be able to sustain society.
That's a little bit of a somewhat it's a somewhat cringeworthy conservative talking point there, like implying OSHA hasn't done any good in the world.
Yeah, the government.
But what OSHA's reactionary. OSHA's not forward thinking. OSHA's reactionary. So that's not a good example.
If the government doesn't work,
you're like 5 steps ahead.
If the government doesn't work, then we should roll back all these government programs like Medicare and Social Security, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about. Those so Medicare and Social Security are reactionary
They both
programs,
just
right?
said yes,
What we're
Don.
saying is that
are you a moderator or are you on their side? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Moderating's kind of hard because it
you're
entered a
supposed to be a
conversation.
moderator, bro. Okay.
Well, all right. Here's my question then. I'm going to moderate. I'm going to throw out a question there for you,
Moderators
right?
don't ask questions, bro.
And as a moderator, bro, I'm telling you this: that your example of Medicare and Social Security are not are not adequate for what the question is. So we're throwing Medicare and Social Security out in the debate because they're reactionary. It's easy for
both-
Medicare. It's OSHA says, okay, we have a problem in the workplace. We're going to go fix it, and they come up with standards for working. What you're
both-
trying to do in this circumstance, we're talking about, okay, all the jobs are going to disappear. We have 7 billion people. What are they going to do to survive?
Look, both of the people that we're actually debating said that we need to eliminate Social Security and Medicare. Their position is to privatize everything always.
All 4 people saying that?
The people we're debating.
The people that are actually in the debate.
I know that. That's what I'm saying, right? So Kyle Everett and Liam, you guys are saying eliminate Medicare and Social Security?
No. I am saying expand Medicare and Social Security. They are saying eliminate it.
Okay. I got that part. I never mind. I'll step out. I'll try to moderate.
Yeah. Like if somebody starts filibustering and talking for too long, that's when you would come in, for example. You know, that's the job of a moderator. You kind of referee, but you don't start punching on somebody else's team.
Hey, I'm fine with it. He was punching out from our side.
You probably picked the wrong guy to moderate then.
Well, to be fair, Everett, you did say you would take a biased moderator.
Yeah, but I guess we all know that we have a biased moderator now. But
I'm trying to be open-minded.
We want to move on to another point. Both,
Go ahead.
So I think we're getting bogged.
Yeah, me and Liam have made the assertion that automation and artificial intelligence is going to create a market failure unless the state intervenes in the economy. And they take the opposite position. They think the market will figure it out.
No, wait.
Despite the fact.
I actually don't. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if the market will figure it out.
Okay, well then there's a divide on your team.
There is an aspect of this that I feel like no one ever talks about with the automation thing. It'll make it easier for people to start up a small local business because they won't have to worry about hiring people. They can make that one-time investment in whatever automated thing. So it'll create a lot of competition. There'll be all these market things, automated things to cater to businesses, small and big.
Right.
So here's
make it easier for people to.
I wanted to move on to other areas of market failure.
Let me just throw this in there real quick. Here's my on the automation question. Here's my kill shot. Okay. So you said that the solution to automation is a more localized style economy where communities.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that it's going to be that'll be a perk to it.
Well, because third positionism, what it is it's not global capitalism, it's community markets, right? So what we are advocating in that aspect, as far as how the community goes, is as far as how the day-to-day experience in your typical average market actor goes, things are more localized and community-driven rather than global corporations.
So you have an economic policy that reacts to the community. And when you have 3 million truckers that are being displaced from the workforce, policy should respond to that.
I disagree.
Now, there's a guy named, I think his name was Aristotle, and he said that the point of work was leisure. So as we're able to hand off jobs to robots and live without working, people will decide to do so. So that's why this time will be different than other times. In the 1800s, people had to work 80 hours a week and send their kids to the coal mines. Right. And as things progress, you get to work less and less. John Maynard Keynes thought we'd only be working about 15 hours a week at this point in time. But that is a trend that we can expect. We can reasonably expect more and more people to be bumped out of the workforce.
Full-time work already is being deconstructed down to 35 hours instead of 40. I mean, it's happening at a much slower rate, but it is happening.
I thought it was 33 hours already.
33. Yeah, I mean, even if it's 33, I mean, you know, yeah, it's the same principle.
But I want to the moderator. I wanted to move on to another topic. I think we went over automation.
Wait.
ad nauseam.
Can I just say one more thing on this? It'll be quick. Because I think I can concede that we don't know what's going to happen. It could be the market may not figure out how to get these people jobs, but that, like I said, those people are just out of luck. You know.
So fuck them is your solution?
No, they will burn your house down.
They will find a way.
It's going to be your problem too.
No.
It's a societal issue.
I'm not saying fuck them.
One person out of work, screw them. Millions of people out of work, screw you.
Yeah, millions of people out of work means people swing from fucking swing from fucking streetlights.
Okay.
You know, that's what that means.
Okay, just let me finish really quick, okay? Because that it doesn't prevent people from charity, right? I mean, you can still if you are worried about these people, and if you think it's going to be a real problem, you and people like you can get together, start a charity. You can there are many ways you can donate.
So theoretically that is possible, but in reality that doesn't happen.
So your solution to automation is charity. Your solution to automation is charity.
No, I'm just
until they land on the feet.
I'm just saying that if you think it's a problem, you have the power to fix it yourself. I mean, it's not.
No, I do not. As an individual, I do not. But the state has the power.
No, you
has the power, and the state should use that power to prevent us from burning down the city because we let robots take everybody's jobs and we didn't adjust economic policy.
Okay, fine. Okay, so but I just wanted to put that out there because that is the core of our disagreement. It's that you can't justify the initiation of force. The charity shouldn't be forced. These people, they didn't plan ahead right. They lost their job.
You can't even take that position because you support the state and you support taxation. So you can't really take that goofy non-aggression principle position. You can't even take that consistently.
I never support taxation.
Only.
You don't support the existence of a state?
I support the existence of a state, but I don't support the existence of.
So you don't think the state should be able to tax people? The state should exist, but it shouldn't be able to tax people.
Voluntary taxes, donations.
That is like a married bachelor. Taxes are by definition involuntary. There's no such thing as involuntary taxes.
Well, if you take someone to court and the person, like, you win your case, the person that loses has to pay the court fees, which is what is the cost of operating government.
I think we should probably reset a little bit here because what's happening right now is the third positionists are arguing what anarcho-capitalism is to the libertarians about taxation being involuntary. And I think we should probably reset a little bit here because this is getting a little bit absurd, moderator.
Yeah, taxation is not voluntary. Can't we all agree that taxation is involuntary?
I don't care what you call it.
We understand your position better than you do. We used to be anarcho-capitalists 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
We're not.
We've transcended that ideology.
We're not anarchists, though.
Know this.
Yeah, we're not anarchists.
Okay, so then you support the existence of a state?
Yes.
A very, very limited state.
Very limited state. Yes.
One job.
Yeah, and one of the things you guys support is a standing military?
No.
No. You don't think that we should have a standing military?
No.
What about a standing police force?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then
So
question you like to ask, how do you pay for that? Do you think taxes will be used?
Donations.
Police force by donation.
Yes.
How badly do you want police?
Nobody has ever really taken that position. Like, this is a completely idiosyncratic and untenable position.
So what's happening then? Is there's a,
I think people that commit crimes and are the reason that we have police in the first place will be given fines.
I think. Let me moderate a little bit here. Let me moderate.
Yeah,
I think.
Please,
Stop.
please,
I'm gonna-
moderator.
So look. So here's a little bit where there's a little. I agree. I don't agree with anything Kyle just said. I think it was Play was saying that. But there is some confusion, right? So when we talk about the American experience, what we do in America, the criminal code is a state issue. The federal government doesn't have criminal code. It's just the federal, murder, rape, robbery. That's always federal. There are some federal crimes, but historically, when we talk about limited government, no standing army, we have to. We should, as Americans, distinguish between what's the role of a state versus the federal government.
well,
Do we want a national police force? Most people would say no. I don't want a national police force. So when we
That's
ask
what
about
the
control,
FBI
we're
is.
talking about
The
state.
FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is a national level police force.
Here's what I feel like is happening right now, right? So
Right.
a couple weeks ago, when Troy and Everett debated, Troy walked into it with a free market healthcare solution, but as the debate started, he last second switched to a voucher system. So now we have these two who walked into this debate with a free market capitalist position, and now they've bait and switched into police and military and everything being voluntarily funded, which is essentially just anarcho-capitalism.
I never said anything. I never said anything about a military being there'd be no military. Just period.
Okay, if you do not have a standing military in the modern era, you are opening yourself up to invasion and conquest by foreign nations that
That's
do
the whole purpose
possess
of us
standing
being here
military.
and being armed.
Well,
I mean,
I,
if you're a free-
if
if
there's
you're
a
a free
threat,
market
then we just
person,
rise
you-
up and then fight
you
the
have
threat.
to have a way to enforce to make sure the free market works and it it doesn't
Right.
turn into a frenzy.
right.
So you have to have some type of police or military intervention for the free market. For instance, we had the Somali pirates a few years ago. We have to send the Navy over there to protect shipping, keep shipping lanes open. So if you want free markets, you have to be able to do that.
The market requires a state.
Yes, it does.
The market requires a state. The state is a coercive apparatus, and it is involuntary in nature.
Funded through violence. Nothing else but violence.
The state is a walking violation of the non-aggression principle.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
So the state can pass a law. So what happens when you pass a law? When the state passes a law and you don't obey it, what happens?
Yeah, you go to jail.
You get aggressed upon.
Right.
Aggression is used on you, right?
But then you have to ask: is it a just law or not a just law? Was there a victim? Is the one thing I go to? If there is a victim, then there's a crime. If there is no victim, there is no crime.
Look, think
My money's being stolen. Am I not a victim?
think about the movie Red Dawn when the Soviet forces invaded America. If we did not have a standing military, we could be conquered by.
Yes,
They'd be killed the second they set foot on land.
They have aircraft carriers and missiles.
Well, so what you're saying then?
So
is
they would just invade the country just to bomb it to death.
What you're saying
What's the
is
point of
the general public is armed enough to be able to withstand an invasion. Tell that to the thousands of countries that have been invaded throughout the millennia. Like, what are you even saying?
That's why we had a Second Amendment. That was the idea with the Second Amendment, but we're limited by government from what we can own.
What countries? Those countries that didn't have guns?
It's in the Constitution even that one of the responsibilities of the federal government is to maintain a standing army.
Yeah,
that was added in
I
like
have to say, I'm
1909 or
for
something.
standing army.
1901.
I don't know. I think they require to maintain a navy. I don't because how it worked before World War One.
Military.
When you look at history books, you see like Civil War. What do they say about the American Army? It's not the American Army. In fact, it's New York Volunteers 42nd, Pennsylvania Regiment. The way the system was set up, the Army gets called up through the states. The federal government asks the states to send the Army. That's why we have the National Guard. So it's actually not the way it was set in the Constitution. Now, I haven't reviewed it, recently, so I don't want to say something that is completely wrong. But I do know that when the Navy is part of the Constitution, but not the Army. The Army, the federal government has to ask the states to provide an army.
I misspoke.
That's not true.
I think the Constitution mandates a standing military.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that,
I'm not sure.
but I would prefer to just rest on common sense, in that we want to have a standing military operated by the state that is funded involuntarily. People don't just voluntarily donate to fund the American military. You are forced to.
No,
I disagree. I think if there is a threat, then every single person in this country then has a incentive
yes.
to do something.
An obligation.
Do something about it.
We have an obligation. We should have an obligation. We all have a
Either
right.
our way of life gets wiped out, or we get up and do something. So then,
When the Russians,
I'm not really worried.
Hey,
Well,
stop!
sorry-
it's a mess.
sorry to-
Too many people
sorry-
talking.
sorry-
Too many people talking. Hold on.
Sorry
It's
to
becoming
interrupt
convoluted.
Three-way circle jerk. Sorry to interrupt your three-way circle jerk with each other. So sorry. I mean, if you guys want to keep having your conversation with the moderator against us, then that's great. But I just want to interrupt your three-way circle jerk for a second and just say that if you think that people coming together voluntarily to defend their land is anything successful, ask that to the thousands of countries that have been successfully invaded.
Right.
But those countries were not armed like we are.
That's abstract shit that doesn't really.
No, it's not, because it's apples and oranges. They didn't have guns. We have guns, and we'd also have like private companies that people pay to develop all kinds of stuff. All the military's weapons that they have now were all developed privately in this country.
It's like
that kind of stuff would still exist. We'd still have stuff to shoot down missiles, all that kind of stuff. That stuff would still exist. It wouldn't just be people with like a pistol.
Okay, Pele speaking here. Just really quick. I would say we should probably have a standing military. I think that would be our best bet. And I think we should probably move on from the point.
Yeah, I have plenty of other examples where your ideology fails, other than automation.
Okay, let's hear those.
Right. So, Harry Truman was the president in the 1940s, and he famously talked about nationalizing the steel industry. I don't believe he actually did, but it is a protected industry. So what we advocate is that sometimes protectionism is called for, and the steel industry would be one of those obvious examples where the state would want to intervene and protect certain domestic industries. Do you guys believe in protectionism at all?
No, because the steel industry was dying because it was overpriced and couldn't compete. And then we had all these unions that were just racking up the cost, which is what led to the demise of the steel industry in the first place in America. So, that's why it died out.
So guys
it's starting to make a slow comeback now, but it died out because of the cost.
Let's say China does steel cheaper and better. You guys would be fine with America losing all domestic steel producers.
Yes.
Yes, because we're still getting steel, and it was actually Japan that was beating us.
Let me
during
finish
the
my
90s and stuff when all that happened, and they were making steel that was just as good but far cheaper.
Right. So in a global free market, if comparative advantage, if foreign countries can produce steel better and cheaper than us, we lose our entire domestic steel production. How are we going to maintain a powerful military in a time of war if we've let our enemies become the sole producers of steel?
You don't understand how okay.
Well, I mean, the steel industry doesn't just go away. It competes and gets better.
If we lose all American producers because they are outcompeted by foreigners, and then we get into a war with those very same foreigners,
then
we're screwed.
No, they're screwed. No,
competition works.
As a matter of national defense, we need to protect the steel and oil industries, just to name a couple.
No, we would get our steel and whatever else we need from somewhere else. It's okay. It's like Anthony said. It doesn't just disappear.
So your ideology supports the idea of competition, right? About businesses and individuals competing with one another to create the maximum outcome. Yes or no?
But the thing is, it's not.
I have a wider point. Just yes or no.
I feel like your point's missing the main point, though.
Well, no. Your capitalism, whether it's global or whatever,
whoever wins doesn't kill the the number 2 spot.
Yeah, the way you're phrasing it.
Whoever is number 1 and number 2 is always fluctuating because they're always out competing each other.
So the point I'm trying to get to then is, so the United States needs to compete with the rest of the world as far as production, exports, all that fun stuff. And you're basically,
you don't do that by protecting a failing industry and giving it that failing stuff allows them to take risky stuff, and it's like, who cares? Government's going to save us.
You actually do protect it if the industry is failing, because the industry is failing in your country. That affects your people.
Okay.
Why would we protect a shitty product?
Exactly. The people are better off if they're getting steel cheaper.
Yeah, the people are better off without that shitty steel that was so bad that people didn't want to buy it in the first place. I don't see the problem here. I mean, if it was so bad, and if you're going to give them a safety net, they know that as a company, they can never go out of business, so they can run it into the ground, and who cares? Government's going to come in and keep saving them, so the quality will go down, the cost will fluctuate who knows where.
So the solution then is having a country that is completely subservient to other powers around it.
No, it's not subservient. We trade with each other. It's a mutually beneficial. That's how the free market works. That's how capitalism works.
Rand is this. Dude, you guys. All right, I'm supposed to moderate, so I probably should leave. This whole extreme free market stuff is just not even practical.
Okay.
Right. You're going to let your steel industry die. It's just not practical. I mean, in real life.
Okay.
Talk about realistic shit, not like in this make believe. Oh, we're all going to be friends and we're going to trade and nobody's going to compete over each other.
But everyone's supposed to compete. We're not supposed to be friends. That's the whole point. It's competition.
It's called literally. It's called realism in international relations. Is the fact that we are competing with these other countries, and sometimes that competition might turn into a military confrontation. And that's why maintaining domestic industries such as steel and oil are intelligent, pragmatic policy decisions. We have the strategic oil reserves in America. Japan went to war with us largely because they started running out of oil, and we put an oil embargo on them in World War II. What me and Liam are speaking of is the pragmatic, real-world, hard-nosed perspective.
Yeah, but the thing is that we're always going to have a steel industry. Like, it's always going to.
No. I mean, listen. I know I'm supposed to moderate, but listen, Kyle, play. The problem in what happened in real life is China dumped cheap, crappy steel on us that they subsidized. So they destroyed our industry. Not with real competition and better products.
Right. What you guys are advocating for is an industry subsidized by their government coming in here and invading our markets. Not letting our government subsidize our industries.
As the moderator, I'll accept invading. I think invading is an appropriate word.
Other states are not going to adhere to your abstract, impractical ideology. The Chinese are going to prop up their steel industry and take over the global steel production trade.
That's not entirely true because the steel is cheap and crappy.
But it's crappy.
Good quality steel. So if people are wanting quality, they're still going to go to either the United States or Japan.
Okay. What if they subsidize high quality steel production?
Then we get really good high quality steel for cheaper. Everybody wins.
Yeah, then we just stockpile that shit.
I'm not the problem. I'm sorry, guys.
So you saying we should have a national steel reserve?
Well, I mean, if they're going to be dumping it for that cheap, yeah.
We have a strategic oil reserve, which is a statist policy that's an intervention in the marketplace. We should have a strategic steel reserve as well. Is your position?
My position is that if something's cheap, buy a lot of it.
I'm gonna have to stop this.
Because I mean, I guess this is my criticism. Like the criticism I have of what you guys are advocating is very parallel to the criticism that I have of individualism, generally speaking. Is you have this abstract way of how things are supposed to work, but no one else is going to abide by it.
Why not?
If you abide by it while everyone else doesn't, you're just a sucker. You're
Okay,
going to get overrun. You're going to get beat up or invaded or whatever the case may be. But the
Not
principle.
entirely true.
Okay, Liam, give me a specific example of that.
So let's say you're at a bar. And you are talking about your non-aggression principle stuff, right?
Okay.
So then you have a guy who just comes in and basically just wants to like fuck your girlfriend or something. And let's say she obliges. This is a slight against you, not in your ideology of a non-aggression principle, right? But it's still something that's being done wrong against you. Your ideology is not equipped to deal with that.
Wait a minute.
It is. Get a new girlfriend. She's trash.
Yeah, if she's going with him willingly, why? How is
The problem becomes the girlfriend, not the guy.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean the guy imposing on your life isn't deserving of any consequences, right?
But why would he be? I mean,
I want to move away and disavow this bar fight over the girlfriend. My position is that protectionism is justified for multiple reasons, one of which is national defense.
Okay.
And the steel and oil industries are just prime examples of that, because steel and oil are crucial to conducting modern warfare. You guys would allow foreign countries to completely swallow our domestic production of oil and steel, leaving us vulnerable. Not to mention that you don't want us to have a standing military.
Okay, wait.
People have a ridiculous position, untenable, and it would lead to our conquest.
Okay, Everett. Okay, let's leave the standing military stuff aside.
We've tried invading the Middle East for how many years now, and we have still yet to conquer and win over the people we're fighting?
Wait.
Guerrilla warfare is kind of a very powerful tactic that if any person tried invading, we would use, and it'd be an unwinnable war for them.
Well, no, to a large extent, our intervention in the Middle East is not. It's not serious. Like if the United States wanted to seriously topple the government of any third world shithole country on earth, it could do it in a long weekend if it actually wanted to.
But they're trying to wipe out like terrorist cells, and they can't.
No, they're not. It's destabilizing the region for Israel. We all know it, but that's besides the point. The point I'm making is that the U.S. federal government in general, actually, can do a lot of things very successfully and efficiently if it actually wants to. Like Julian Assange quickly let himself be on a list, and as soon as the decision was made to arrest him, he got arrested faster than his head could spin. Right? So same thing with referring back to the Middle East. If the government was serious about toppling a government in the Middle East, and that was the actual purpose, it would happen in a long weekend.
I disagree. I mean, guerrilla warfare is a very powerful tactic, and that's what they do there. So you can't.
So are Moabs.
Yeah, but that's.
You fucking Moab the capital of whatever third world shithole country by surprise.
But the thing is that you do that, you kill a lot of civilians, and then you just make more enemies.
That's the real issue. That's
already making enemies.
That's the whole point. And then eventually you deplete your resources, and you're just isolating yourself.
I'm not supporting doing
So
that.
if I'm just saying, if someone were to come here and try to invade,
what we're doing, but what we're doing now creates enemies, so it's a moot point, right?
yeah, because we're killing civilians.
Tangent. I just wanted to make that point.
The Vietnamese waged guerrilla warfare against the U.S. military in the
Wait,
1960s.
it's not a mute point because you missed my point. My point is that if someone tried invading here, we would do guerrilla warfare.
I get your point.
They wouldn't win. They would never win.
I get your point. I'm saying that
They complete their
probably
research
the
and eventually have to give up.
I'm trying to steel man your point. I understand your point. In Vietnam, they used guerrilla warfare against the strongest military in the world. United States military invaded Vietnam, and they hid behind trees and in bushes, and they used small arms, and they used what they had with a peasant population to repel the U.S. military using guerrilla warfare. That would probably be like the best example of your point in the modern era, right?
Yeah. I mean, other than the Middle East, yeah.
But here's what you have to keep in mind is that the Vietnamese were state funded by the Soviet Union.
China.
And China. They had two large super states funneling money to their guerrilla warfare program. Guerrilla warfare.
And the Chinese army. Chinese army came in too.
Pure guerrilla warfare is not enough in realpolitik. If you really take a look at politics as it stands in the real world that we currently live in, guerrilla warfare is not enough. Iraq was destroyed by the United States. Insurgencies cause a headache, but guess what? Your country was destroyed. I do not want my country to be destroyed simply because I relied on guerrilla warfare to repel an invasion of a large foreign state.
Well, we wouldn't though, because we have all kinds of other games.
What's that?
I'm just saying we have there's countless tactics to our advantage, and they're all to our advantage. Plus technology, that's definitely in our advantage too.
Look, you're talking about small arms fire versus Air Force.
But we have like all of the stuff United States military was privately developed.
Small arms.
It wouldn't just be small arms. It would. I mean, we'd have things to shoot down missiles and stuff too. I mean, there'd be contractors whose sole job it is to make that kind of stuff.
Look, nuclear weapons versus guerrilla warfare.
Okay. So they're gonna nuke a place. So they want to conquer the place, therefore they nuke it.
Nuclear weapons.
It makes no sense. Why would they want to nuke a place they're trying to conquer?
I think we're getting.
I mean, the whole purpose of nukes is like, if you nuke me, I nuke you, kind of a thing.
As soon as you talk about
people,
as soon as you talk about not having a standing military and voluntarily funding the police, you lose the argument.
Those are two separate.
Really separate things, and you're jumping all over the place.
If you just said one of those goofy things, you lose the argument.
Okay, but that's not. That's not. You disagree with it. Okay, we understand.
We set this debate up on the premise that government had a position to operate within police and military, etc.
Yeah,
now and arguing something different, right?
No.
Government's job is to protect.
We're not arguing anything different.
In a professional setting, you'd have been disqualified by now.
No, we wouldn't. Well, okay, the standing army thing. I think we should have a standing army or standing military. So,
everybody that's a serious political thinker knows that we should have a standing military.
Okay, fine.
So, next topic.
I mean, it's not really a thing I care too much about, but so I mean, I whatever. I'm just.
It's crucial. It's crucial. It's
not crucial to this debate. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
What we have are two.
I also don't think it's really crucial in the fact that it's been making more enemies than it's defeating.
Look, it's crucial because ultimately the economic system is a political question. And you guys are proposing a political philosophy that is completely unworkable
How
It
is
doesn't have a standing military.
But
Okay.
the strongest economies in the world are the ones that adopt the most of
A
it.
realistic, workable theory, and what you're talking about is in la la land and could never really happen.
okay? So you're still not giving me any. You're not really supporting your argument.
Yeah, I mean, the strongest economies in the world are like Hong Kong, United States, Ireland. I mean, whoever has like the highest freedom index, they're all doing the best.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
the more free
They're
you
all,
make the market, and
all
the
of these
less you
countries,
get government out of it, the better they do.
all of these countries that you mentioned are operating a mixed economy, and it shifts between how much is privatized and how much is made.
Hong Kong has had a very, very private
nationalized.
market since its founding.
he's referring to the economic freedom index, though.
Oh, yeah, that's always fluctuating. But overall,
Right.
it's all moving more towards freedom.
But what you guys are proposing is not the same as these systems you're speaking of.
No,
The
but the point is the freer the economy, the better the results. So
Not
yes,
exactly.
Not always.
okay, fine, but okay, can I just go back? Can I go back to something really quick?
I think Somalia is a free market.
No, they're not at all.
I mean, I don't think they have
the whole area is ran by very, very oppressive warlords.
Yeah, it's run by warlords, isn't it?
Yeah, extremely oppressive ones. I mean, there's people that constantly use Somalia as some example when it's a very
That's more
authoritarian hellhole for everyone.
Yeah, that's anarchy.
Somalia doesn't have a standing military, and you know, Somalia
They also
is
have a government that's completely
Somalia
ineffective.
Somalia does not have a strong central state to regulate and manage their economy.
Yeah, but
it's
capitalism requires a state. Isn't that what you conceded earlier?
Somalia has like different territories all ran by different warlords.
Right. Somalia does not have a central state that regulates and manages the economy.
Yeah, it doesn't have a central state that protects individual rights.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a human rights violation all over the place in Somalia.
It's a shithole.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
not to mention the IQ problem.
Somalia is the king.
The IQ problem's pretty big.
Somalia is the king of deregulation. Somalia does not have a central state that regulates and manages their economy.
Yeah, but the whole thing on that revolves around non-aggression, no coercion at all, and
Somalia has very small government.
No, they have warlords that control everything. It's a mafia.
Right. A question for you guys, both Liam and Everett. What specifically makes free market capitalism unworkable? Or just can you give me some specific examples?
What makes it unworkable is what I outlined earlier when I said that you can have abstract principles about what constitutes morality and violence and all this, but it's absolutely useless and masturbatory if you're the only one around you who thinks that.
Okay, fine. Give me a specific example of capitalism gone wrong.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're debating your position versus our position, and your position fails on multiple levels.
Okay,
your position fails to address the automation.
Hello?
Did it cut out?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Our microphone actually got unplugged.
He dropped out?
No, I can hear them
I can't.
You had asked
very faintly. You guys, we're barely hearing you.
What about now?
No.
Just barely.
Yeah.
Can you guys see the group chat?
How about now?
Yes.
Better.
Better.
So you guys had asked where does your proposed version of free market capitalism fail?
Yeah.
And we've been discussing that for the last hour. Your version of free market capitalism, your proposed system, fails to address the automation revolution, for one.
I see that as a
All
success.
these displaced workers. Your version of free market capitalism fails to provide adequate national defense by potentially allowing steel and oil to be completely shipped to overseas production. Your proposed system of free market capitalism fails because you think people will voluntarily pay for the police force. You don't understand the collective action problem and the free rider problem. People will not voluntarily pay for the police. They have to be forced to pay for the police.
Well, criminals would be paying for it.
Your system, your version.
Everett, why not?
Why not?
I was going to list all the reasons your system failed, but I guess that would take a while because it fails on so many fronts. So yeah, we can dig into why people won't pay for a voluntary police force.
And why people won't pay for it doesn't really matter because they don't, and that's what disproves what you're trying to say. They just don't.
Well,
it doesn't really matter why.
No, we're
It's-
taxed. We're taxed right now.
It's called the free rider problem. Are you familiar with it?
Not really. I mean, I've heard of it, but I'm
Well,
not.
let me explain it.
Let me
Okay.
red pill you on that. Greg.
Okay, this is one of the reasons why you need to be a hardcore statist like myself.
Okay.
It's called the collective action problem.
Okay.
Acronym CAP, the collective action problem.
All right.
And one of the main constituents of the collective action problem is called the free rider problem. So if I can benefit from police protection without paying for it, I will. I will choose to free ride. I will go about my daily business and allow everybody else to pay for the police force, and I won't pay, but I'll still get the benefits because I live in the same geographic area.
Okay, got it. Now, can I ask you though, is the free rider problem, is that most people or?
Yes.
No, it's called
Yes.
it's called Homo economicus, and a Homo economicus doesn't really exist, but there will be enough people that decide to free ride that it cascades and fails.
Okay, I disagree, but
Well, real world experience will prove that I am correct. There is a reason that we do not voluntarily fund the police force because people wouldn't pay for it if they had the choice.
No, it's because people think that people wouldn't pay for it.
I mean, I'd be okay with a small, like,
It's an
tiny,
unfalsifiable.
minuscule tax.
But your claim is also unfalsifiable. I mean, unless we actually implement it, but
We're observing the whole of human history.
all right.
I think so.
We're okay.
It's the same issue with funding a standing military. You guys don't even agree with the existence of a standing military, but some people say
on it. And it's not like we're like that's our main, policy.
Yeah.
We want to get rid of the military day one. Like, you just asked us our opinion on it.
Yeah.
Well, eventually you do want to get rid of the military. So that kind of proves
Well,
the
we
type of
definitely want to cut down
utopian land that you reside in.
Well, I personally don't want to get rid of the military.
I really just want to cut down on funding for it.
Yeah.
Well, that's different. So you were saying that you were opposed to a standing military per se.
I wasn't, but
I was.
Okay.
Right.
I'm just not saying it's priority number one. I could care less.
So since we don't have a moderator anymore, let's just go ahead and say this then. So if you two aren't in agreement completely on the military situation, we should probably just migrate to a different topic. Because there's no use in arguing a topic where both members of the team aren't on the same level, right? I mean, that just seems logical.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can just move to other area.
Move to another area.
Let me move to another area where ideology fails.
Wait.
Work.
Before you do that, can I just ask you one more question?
Yeah. Go for it.
Is there anything from the past? Okay, because the problems you're mentioning are things that haven't happened yet, but
Yeah, they're all hypothetical future
right, and that's not to say that's not to say
apocalypse
that's wrong.
revelations type
and,
stuff.
and that's not to say that they're necessarily wrong. But do you have anything that's actually happened that is a failure of capitalism?
Well, ultimately, what you're asking is what would be a failure of your proposed version of capitalism? You know, we're arguing your position versus ours.
Well, okay.
I mean, our
Can I
proposed
just
version has
ask,
existed
can I
during
just
time
ask
frames.
capitalism in general? Since
Yeah. So
our
here is another area where your proposed version of capitalism fails. Worker protections. We touched on OSHA earlier. OSHA,
That's what I'm big on. I'm big on the worker protection.
occupational safety and health, also minimum wage, overtime regulations.
okay, can we go to minimum wage?
Sure.
So what your position is that minimum wage is necessary, right?
Yes. Well, I'm not sure if me and Liam are in agreement here, but I think a minimum wage of $15 if you're a giant, large cap, multinational corporation. You shouldn't be able to pay any of your employees less than $15 an hour, regardless of if they're part time or full time.
Only if you're a giant corporation, or is that across the board?
Small businesses should be cut out of that equation. If you look at, like third positionism, we tend to try to foster smaller community-based businesses.
And just so I can insert and we can clearly recognize me and Everett's overlap on the situation so we can argue collectively here, is I do think that I couldn't tell you exactly what the exact dollar amount is going to have to be, but just as a general sentiment or as a general principle, let's say a giant corporation is foreign and it has more than $2 million worth of assets outside of the United States. It should be beholden to a different and much higher tax code than a country that resides within the country. So extrapolating that to minimum wage, do you kind of see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
2 million or 2 billion?
It doesn't matter. I don't care what the number is. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sitting here throwing out a number. What I am saying is that foreign corporations should be taxed much more heavily than the national ones. And same thing with domestic workers being paid much more than international. Does that make sense?
The thing is with that is like international businesses, you want it'd make better sense to be more of a tax haven for all of them, because then they'd all migrate here than it would to tax them more, because that seems like it would deter them or make them want to set up shop here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure about the $15 an hour thing. Again, like I don't know. Like I'm not a person that I'm not really going to throw out numbers, because that seems to be arbitrary based on where you live.
Right.
But
so maybe it could be state by state.
What's that?
Maybe it could be state by state.
Or community by community, yeah. I mean, but generally speaking, yeah, a minimum wage would be preferred, especially because, like, out where we live, the minimum wage just increased almost $3 an hour. It was actually a pretty large increase where we live.
Okay.
And the job market's still, it's exploding. So like the negative externalities of having a minimum wage seem to not be.
No restaurant closes.
Okay. So the argument, but the main argument against minimum wage is that it prices the lowest skilled and least experienced people out of the job market from even getting their very first jobs, right?
Yeah.
How would you respond to that?
Me personally, I'll let Everett respond here too, but me personally, like, I guess I just don't care, because if at some point, let's put it this way, like, so like with the student loan crisis, like, let's factor that in slightly just so I can kind of make this point here. So like, you have people who wake up in the world and they've, gone so much into debt and can't pay for shit. and you expect them to just go for this free market thing, So why can't we institute a minimum wage to help those people, and that helps perpetuate the system? So if it costs a little bit, or if it's unfair to a couple people who have been at the job for a few years, and they have a wage that they've worked up to that's just below $15, like I just kind of see that as like sour medicine.
And okay, and there's other unintended consequences of minimum wage. I think
there's always and here's the thing, and I think I can speak forever here as well. We are former libertarians. We are not unfamiliar with the concept of unintended consequences. We actually make these policy prescriptions knowing
with those
consequences are actually.
Why do you care about the
we know,
but not the?
We know that small businesses will be adversely impacted by minimum wage hikes.
But then you exclude them from your policy, right?
Right. So small businesses would be able to pay a lower minimum wage than giant multinational corporations. That way, small businesses aren't hurt by increased minimum wage regulations.
And that's what I meant earlier by tax differences in foreign corporations versus national. Just to tie that back in, because I know that kind of went off a little bit.
Like Amazon should pay more in municipal taxes than mom and pop shops.
There should be a very clear distinction between giant corporations and community businesses.
Right now, mom and pop shops pay more in taxes than Amazon.
That's fucked up.
And that's wrong.
Well, a percentage, not in actual raw dollars.
Okay.
That's what we meant. Percentage is what matters.
Okay, so I would disagree with that, but just sticking on minimum wage for a second.
Wait. You think that Amazon should pay less municipal taxes than mom and pop shops?
Yes, I think Amazon should pay zero taxes. I don't think any business should pay any taxes. I don't think it makes sense economically or more.
I agree. I think two things that should definitely go is income tax and business tax.
But definitely business tax should be the first one to go, I would say.
I'd get rid of both.
Well, yeah. How do you do municipal funding?
It was all done before any of that existed.
Well, tariffs. What are you saying? How do you fund municipal governments if not with taxes?
Yeah, but there's still property taxes. There's sales tax.
Property taxes largely go to the schools.
Get rid of all public education. Actually, that's the first thing I would get rid of.
That has to go.
Okay. Oh God.
Okay, so we're moving on from minimum wage.
No. Not quite yet. Hold on.
I think we should move on from minimum wage. Really,
let's let him make his point. It seems like he's got something he wants to get out.
Yeah, no. Just quickly, because I think I agree with you that the effects of minimum wage are not that drastic on the economy. The negative effects, really.
They're really
not. Even if you do move it to 15 an hour, it'll be a net negative for the economy, but not too much. Again, our main objection is going to be the moral one, that you're forcing, basically the government telling businesses what they have to pay their employees instead of letting the business owner make that determination. It's a violation. It's a violation of property rights.
Let's not pretend that the business owners wouldn't prefer to just pay their employees in coupons that are only good at their business, to where they have to go back to the business to purchase everything.
Well, then you lose all your best people to your competitors. I mean, you're still competing with other businesses for talent too. Labor is a commodity.
It's a commodity in which the very large enterprises have a very distinct advantage.
They do, but they're still competing with each other, and you don't. I mean,
the high turnaround rates that big businesses have, they're not going to.
Do you guys want to eliminate the minimum wage completely?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think that I should be able to pay somebody a penny an hour and have them work 100 hours at my business?
Yes. If
they want to.
Hey, should I be able to pay them in food and shelter?
Pay them in whatever you want.
Whatever you guys agree
to. So basically, I could have a slave that works for me, and I give them food, shelter, and health care.
It's not a slave. They're agreeing to it.
No, slavery is a violation of rights.
Look, a lot of people don't realize this, but there was a thing called voluntary slavery, and you could enter into a slave contract. And this is
Yeah, you could.
one of the things that Abraham Lincoln outlawed. So basically, you guys are supporters of voluntary slavery. Is that as long as it's consenting, as long as me and my owner / employer agrees on the wage, then the state should not be interjecting itself. So
Yeah.
I could pay somebody in food, shelter, and medical care and have them work for me nonstop all the way around the clock.
That's
You're
not
talking about reinstituting slavery.
That's not slavery.
It's really not slavery.
If there's
If it's voluntary, it's not slavery. By
Yeah.
definition.
but to answer your question, yes.
Look it up. Do
Yeah.
a Google search. Voluntary slavery.
Legal scholars starkly disagree.
You could sell yourself into slavery.
Okay.
Basically, we're talking about bringing that back.
But now it's just a semantic argument. On the slavery is owning another human being's property, so we're against that. But being able to pay them in whatever food stamps or whatever you said, yeah,
Whenever they want to quit, they quit.
yeah.
Right. So what you're talking about, most people would consider exploitation.
Okay, and the wrong.
Well, I remember when I was a teenager and I was working at McDonald's, I wanted more hours, but they couldn't give me more hours because then I'd qualify as full-time and they'd have to give me benefits. I didn't want the benefits, but government mandated that I have benefits. I just wanted the more hours.
Right.
And then on top of that, that was right when they increased the federal minimum wage from like $5.25 or whatever it was at the time to $7. So it was doing that gradual stuff, which forced hour cuts on top of that, which made it even worse.
In economic terms, it's called the race to the bottom. So
Right. Yes, I've heard of it.
if I can find an employer, if I can find an employee that will accept a lower wage, I'll take them.
Right.
And eventually you race all the way to the bottom, and all of a sudden I just got a bunch of people living in my basement, working in my McDonald's, and I just feed them McDonald's and house them in my basement.
And the quality of the service will be.
You're not taking.
You haul 16 tons.
You guys-
what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt.
Okay.
You guys agreed a minute ago that the corporation or the company end of the wage negotiation has a very superior advantage. I think you both agreed to that just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, he's got an advantage.
How does that make whatever it said wrong?
Because he's not.
The wage market is not in favor of the laborer in capitalism. It is in favor of who is willing to accept the lowest wage to do the job so that they actually have the grace of getting a job.
No, not necessarily. But
It's supply and demand.
you're not taking into account the fact that you're competing with other businesses for the labor. See, it's only a race to the bottom if you're the only if you're the only employer in town. Yes, then it's probably a race to the bottom. But if they could go and work for Burger King or Wendy's or
but all businesses have this incentive to keep their costs as low as humanly possible, right? They're all in agreement on the sentiment on that the market pressure is not actually to increase wages. The market pressure is to decrease.
No, there's
Because that's all businesses
not
spend the least
entirely.
possible.
no. If that were true, everyone would pay minimum wage.
Yeah, majority of jobs pay well over. I mean, why are the people making $200,000 a year? If that's the case,
You don't want to sacrifice profit. Because what happens is if you mistreat your employees, you get less productive, unhappy workers. You get,
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that all jobs are going to end up being slave caverns. What I am saying is that the lowest level of workers, like circling back full circle to this truckers and automation thing, the lowest skilled are the ones who get completely fucked.
but no,
Meanwhile,
at least
a
they
minimum
have,
wage law does not actually negatively affect the economy that much. You can't. I haven't even seen even as a libertarian, I never saw a single actual causal demonstration of that.
okay, wait a minute.
All theoretic.
You conceded earlier that minimum wage laws do price the lowest skilled workers out of the job market. So how are they worse off?
It depends on the industry. Not all industries are made equal.
Well, it's clearly
Which is
low
also
level.
why,
entry
many employers pay above the minimum wage, but that doesn't mean that the people in those industries aren't getting, in a way, very ripped off, because the businesses they work for are all competing for the cheapest labor at the most effective cost of return, or return of investment.
Yeah, but the less you pay, the less quality you're getting.
In
Supply
theory,
and demand apply to labor. Like you guys said, in a way, labor is kind of like a commodity. Supply and demand are a factor. As we get more and more robots doing labor, more and more migrants doing labor, you can pay less and less on your wages.
it becomes a competition between the workers who is willing to pay less,
But
not
then
a
it's up
competition
to
between
workers to
businesses.
start learning some
pay
better
more.
skills.
Right.
Like move themselves up. Why should we pander to people that are doing absolutely nothing with their life and working at McDonald's when they're 35?
Yeah,
We're circling back to fuck them, learn a new skill.
Yeah, but
Right.
you already said fuck the people that are being priced out from the minimum wage.
I did not.
No, that's not my position.
that's Liam.
We support the people. We are the position in support of the working class.
Okay, but then you're not.
Working class, pro-working class regulations, protecting workers. You can't put your workers
But you're not
radiating
expecting anything in return, which is the problem. The major problem here is the lack of any expectations in return. Just keep doing exactly what you're doing. Do absolutely nothing to better your life, and we're just going to make your life better. And we're not going to expect anything from you to better society.
The lives of the people you're talking down to, whether you put them in your ideal situation or our ideal situation, they're still going to behave the same way.
Yes.
You might as well just have the bottom part of your society be as high up as you possibly can, especially if it's of no.
Not if it's at our expense.
Economy. Because again, as we agreed earlier, minimum wage laws, they really don't have that big of an effect. Like it's not.
No, the regulations requiring like health insurance and stuff like that, and all the benefits
here to pay workers a little more.
Yeah, the benefits and stuff from like having a full-time employee is what hurts employees the most.
That is actually a lot more harmful.
Yeah, it's insanely pricey for a business to have a full-time employee because of all the benefits that government forces on, which I have a feeling you would not want to get rid of.
I think we found some common ground is that the health insurance benefits that companies are kind of required to provide to a certain degree, we should decouple health care from businesses.
Yeah.
And that's we support a Medicare for All program.
Bad idea.
Where
Yeah, no.
The businesses can get out of the health insurance industry.
Terrible.
As the dearly departed Ross Perot once said, the biggest expense in making a car in America is health care for the workers' health insurance.
Right.
And there is such a thing as burdensome regulation. We agree with you on that. However, your position is no regulation.
Which is more costly than the alternative.
To have the position of no regulation, no worker protection regulations is an untenable position.
Okay, let's
unconscionable. It's not right.
Okay,
I think it's very conscionable. I think it's the most moral thing.
Let's make this the last point. I got to get going soon. But okay, go ahead and explain how it's more expensive and burdensome to have no regulations.
We've done pretty well, all things considered.
Well, because businesses will be rapacious and tell St. Peter that I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. I don't know if you've ever heard that one before, but they used to have companies. They would build houses around the factories and the mines.
That's what I was referring to earlier.
And then they'd rent them out to
house
workers.
their employees there, and they would offer them like store credit to the company store. And basically, they were like indentured servants or slaves. and you're talking about a bifurcation in society. We're supporting a thriving middle class.
That was actually an upgrade compared to what those people had before, though.
Yeah.
A massive upgrade compared to what they had before.
But does that make it ethical?
Yes, because it made their lives better than what it was previously.
So you can abuse your wife a little less than the last guy.
That's not abuse at all. I mean, it's taking them out of the slums and giving them a affordable place to run, to shop.
You're talking about going
in a place.
No, you're talking about going back in time. What about regulations?
China has that stuff right now. They used to go for dirt poor farmers that were starving are now working in very similar conditions. They even have schools and stuff at those businesses. You're talking about massive step up.
You're talking about going back in time in America. Would you guys support repealing regulations against child labor?
Yes.
So we want to get kids back in the mines.
I wouldn't be going back in mines, but I mean, if I was like a 12-year-old me and I wanted to like do something and like
I wanted to make
my parents approved.
I think we have reached a good stopping point. You guys have made it to enough untenable positions.
Just calling it.
I mean, should we consider like kids selling lemonade on the sidewalk, child labor, and go after those parents?
Look, you guys have come to enough ridiculous positions in this debate that we could wrap it up now.
Okay, but Everett, just call.
We got a party to get to.
Okay,
but let's do some summation though. Like you guys give your final arguments within like 3 minutes or so, and then we'll give our rebuttal and we'll close it up.
Wait, you guys get to rebut our final statement?
Okay. We'll go first, and then you guys get to rebut.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so in tonight's debate, we have seen two positions contrast themselves. On one hand, we have a very extreme version of laissez-faire capitalism with no regulations, a system that has no standing military, no minimum wage, no worker protections. It allows for child labor. It doesn't protect essential industries like steel and oil, and essentially it cannot work in the real world. And that is contrasted with me and Liam's position of a mixed economy that works for the working class, that works for the common man. It's known as the third position. And in our system, the state uses policy to make sure that the worker is looked after, that the worker is not treated as a pure commodity or a cog in the machine, and we respect the dignity of the engine of an economy, the working people. So we propose a realistic system. We realize the necessity for statecraft. You guys live on La Utopian Island. Epstein Island. Case closed.
So all I would have to say is just a very short. I mean, I don't know. The thing I come back to is just this: if you walk around advocating or espousing these abstract principles of competition and market values and non-aggression and things like that, if you're in a crowd of people and you're the only one who thinks that, you're going to get wrecked. So relating back to the foreign policy, politically, global political economy thing we had going on, I guess that's all I would say. What I see you guys advocating for is a situation where we are the only pacifist in a room full of neocons.
Okay. Anthony, if you want to.
Well, yeah, I just point out that child labor existed all throughout human history, and the only reason it's not a thing relied on anymore is because of the Industrial Revolution getting society to a point to where we no longer need it. So, I mean, yeah, there's that. I don't know. It's just okay. Yeah. I don't have much closing stuff to say.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the audience will be able to decide for themselves here on this debate. I thank you guys for taking the time.
Wait, hold on.
Clay hasn't said his closing.
Oh, okay. Let Pele, please let us have.
Okay, well, I want to say I thought it was a pretty good debate. I mean, we got bogged down on a few things, but I appreciated that you guys brought some things to the debate that I have not heard from your standard leftists.
Yeah.
Especially the AI thing. I think is a pretty good point. The national defense thing, where what if we run out or we don't have any steel, and then we go to war with Japan? I hadn't, to be honest, hadn't really put much thought into that before. You know, the free rider problem, I think, is what was, you know, it's something to think about. But where,
Astute observation.
yes, but I think where you guys seem to argue out of I think you call it arguing out of incredulity. I mean, you said
Incredulity.
and okay, yeah, sorry. But just saying that our position is unworkable, untenable, ridiculous, abstract. You know, that is not refuting anything we're saying.
The free marketeers are calling us abstract.
No. I mean, you're calling us that. I'm saying you're calling us abstract.
Oh, okay.
Let him go. Let him go.
Yeah.
Give him enough rope to hang himself.
No. I think that okay, and it's too bad we had to stop here because I felt like it was just getting really interesting.
Yeah.
If we do this again, I just want to hear you guys say specifically why is what we're saying unworkable or untenable or ridiculous? What specifically? Give me an example exactly of how what I'm saying has gone awry.
And I'd also kind of like to hear more about, like, you know, your policies that you'd want, just because it seems to me like it's very short-term comfort at the expense of the future.
How about this? Would you guys be open? I'm just thinking out loud to the debate, to the, you know, whatever the fuck this is thing. So what if same time next week, same time during the day, a more precise, maybe we get a moderator who's actually neutral and doesn't take your side.
Well, they didn't really take us that much.
So
Yeah.
What if we schedule a part 2, even if it's not next week, just sometime in the near future, we schedule a part 2. We go over actual specific policy recommendations. We go over a lot more specifics and stay out of the abstract atmosphere, and we get someone who can effectively moderate.
We should probably plan on specific topics.
Yeah. So we'll work it off. We'll work it out offline.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you guys for your time. We got some guests here that we have to spend time with, but I appreciate your patience and not getting angry at us. I know that we're kind of dickish at times, perhaps. So I appreciate your patience, and
Sorry about your pedophile capitalism, bro.
we'll get back together in the barge.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Peace out.
Later,
All right.
guys.
Bye.